Well, we've got 2 days until the dawn of a brand new year, year 2017, and it's important to see how much of an impact certain decisions that were made in the year 2016 will have in the year 2017. When you say decisions, you're watching Vantage Point, so you very well know that we are going to talk about decisions that were made by the government, by the national government in the year 2016, and how much have they fulfilled their resolutions and pledges that were made to the people. And joining me tonight is Dr. Dhananjay Tilaka. He's in the studio with me. Thank you very much for joining us.
Hi, Stephanie. Last show of the year.
Yes, last show of the year. So let's just start off with the question, have we made progress? How much of the resolutions that were lined up by the government has the government itself fulfilled?
Well, I think we've had more setbacks than progress. Every step forward has been accompanied by 2 steps back and 1 sideways. That's why you can't name any major breakthrough domestically in 2016. You can't say, okay, there was this unambiguously positive move which succeeded. What you do see, now you asked me the question about what the government resolved. What you do see in the course of 2016, which will become quite manifest early in 2017, is that the term "the government" itself has to be questioned, because there seem to be at least 2, perhaps more, power centers. There seem to be governments within governments, like this Russian doll, which is known as a Matryoshka doll. You open the doll, there's another doll inside, you can open that one, there's another one, and another one, and another one. So even the question is itself called into question. What do you mean by the government's resolutions? Many things that one wing of the government has tried to do has come under criticism from another wing of the government, apart from the criticism from the joint opposition and President Rajapaksa and so on. But even if you leave that aside, you can see like an amoeba, 2 cells growing out of 1 cell, and that's going to get better or worse as we head into 2017.
Well, we saw many decisions that were made at the end of 2015. Government plans to establish certain commissions, independent commissions. How much of a success have they been?
Well, I really don't know, Stephanie, because it's all been overshadowed, hasn't it? If the independent commissions did something that's good, and I'm not saying they didn't, well, we don't know how much of that is due to the commission themselves, or whether it's the good old president who did it. For instance, I think President Sirisena did well, and that's one of the few good things of 2016, in making Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy the head of the central bank. Now, whether that was due to the independent commission or not, I don't know, but I certainly know that President Sirisena made the choice. Because Prime Minister Wickremesinghe was trying to hold on to Arjuna Mahendran, and then he had somebody else in mind, and so on and so forth. So even the independent commissions, whatever good they could have done, has been overshadowed by a lot of bad that's taking place in other areas, such as the rupee collapsing, which your station has been talking about, such as the non-implementation or the mishandling of the COPE report into the central bank, the scan. So the big ticket stories have been very problematic and negative, and whatever good stuff that's been going on has really not been noticed.
Well, talking about the central bank bond scam, it's important that people get the information, and transparency, like you mentioned earlier, is very important. And the government also established the RTI Commission in order to make that happen. But it still seems stalled. It has not come into force. We were backwards when you come to see the regional countries. We were the ones to implemented the last. We were the last country to implement it in the region itself. But we are stalling. We are still not implementing it fully. It has not come into force fully. So do you think the government should at least next year get the commission going and form the members and appoint the members in order to make this happen?
Well, what hasn't stalled, Stephanie? It's not just the RTI. Tell me one thing that hasn't stalled. I mean, there have been economic measures that have been taken, perhaps without even the permission of the relevant minister, which are going ahead. Like I said, the state of the rupee, I mean, somebody's been doing something or not doing something, and it's been corkscrewing downward. But that apart, you tell me one thing that has not stalled. Everything's stalled.
So is it because the government is not working together unitedly, or is there being some sort of policy decisions that were being made at different levels? And are they only finding out later that the policy decisions that they have been making are actually taking them onto a different path, onto harm's way?
Well, I think that there is no policy coherence. You need a policy strategy that everyone in government has agreed on. Never mind those outside government. But the government has agreed on. But if you take many moves, what's on the record is that there has not been the concurrence even of the minister concerned. Now take Hambantota and what Arjuna Ranatunga says. There's so many other areas in which the minister concerned says, hey, I didn't know, somebody took this decision. So there's something going on which isn't right. It seems to me that there's a deadlock. There is a deadlock between two camps. One camp comprises not of the UNP, that's not fair by the UNP, but one camp comprises of 4 individuals who are trying to drive the government in one direction, and the other camp comprises of the President Sirisena and the SLFP in government. Now, these 4 individuals, which I refer to as the quartet, are those who have the same or similar or congruent views on the direction in which the country should go on a number of matters. And these 4 individuals are Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, former President Chandrika Bandanayake Kumaratunga, Foreign Minister Mandala Samaraweera, and Mr. Sumandaran of the TNA, because of the issue of accountability and the constitution. So this is a government within the government, because on the other hand you have President Sirisena, who says, look, we are not going to dump the unitary state, who says, and the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, the Sri Lanka Freedom Party says, we are going to retain the unitary state, we are not moving beyond, who said we are going beyond the 13th Amendment, who said we are going to abolish the parliamentary system. In fact, our manifesto, the presidential system, our manifesto says that, and that's what we got a mandate for, that we will reform the constitution but not do anything that requires a referendum. Now, the Sri Lanka Freedom Party seems to be supported to some degree by Champika Ranawaka's JHU. Then you have the JVP, which helped bring the present government into office, but is increasingly critical of what Prime Minister Wickremesinghe is doing. Well, not Anwar Kumara so much, but the rest of the JVP. And if I had to name a Sri Lankan person of the year 2016, it would unhesitatingly be Sunil Handunethe as COPE chairman. He's my favorite Sri Lankan of the year 2016.
Well, with that, let's head into a short commercial break, but when we come back, we'll have more on Vantage Point. So stay tuned. Welcome back. You are watching Vantage Point. I'm Stephanie Lazarus, and with me tonight in the studio is Dr. Dayanja Tilaka. Well, before the break, we spoke about the COPE report into the alleged bond scam at the central bank. this year was the highlight of the year. At the end of the second quarter of the second half of the year was the vote that took place and the report that was published after that. And there was a lot of questions around the footnote and why there's a footnote club and why should there be a footnote club if so. But next year, 2017, we'll see a whole different dimension of it. What does the future hold in terms of the COPE report into the alleged bond scam?
Well, there were two COPE reports. One was chaired by Segra, and it was almost aborted by the calling of an election. So we have to take that as a backdrop. And then we have the second COPE report, the one that went the distance. MP Handunethi has said, look, what's wrong with this picture? The COPE report has been sent to the AG's department, but the report has not been tabled and debated in Parliament. I mean, shouldn't we debate this in Parliament? We should. That's the right procedure. It's a parliamentary report. The Select Committee of Parliament, I mean, Public Affairs Committee. Why is it not being debated in Parliament? And he has called for a debate early in January. Now, what does that show? That here is this paradox of the UNP leadership wanting to abolish the presidential system and have some variant of the Westminster model, but violating the basic norms of parliamentary procedure. Short-circuiting a debate on the COPE report and sending it unilaterally. He decides, he sends it through the Speaker, of course, to the AG's department. Now, what's going on there? So we haven't heard the end of this COPE story. And it's very good that Sunil Handunethi has pointed out that this has been channeled in the wrong way.
So many economic decisions were made this year, especially EDCA. We're not seeing actually preliminary discussions taking place, or at least it's not transparent to the people of the country or the media. But there have been certain strides that are made in terms of EDCA. There are also economic decisions and even decisions that are yet to come from the GSP Plus concessions. That's next year. Does the future look good for us Sri Lankans in terms of the economy?
Well, I don't see a single economist, right, left or center, who says that things are looking good. One of the best educated of the pro-Yahapalana economists, Professor Razin Sali, of Sri Lankan origin, is very right-wing, very sort of neoliberal / conservative. Taught at the London School of Economics, and now he teaches in Singapore. I mean, I know him personally. Very smart guy, but as I said, extraordinarily reactionary in his views and very pro-UNP. He delivered a speech on the 20th, and he rolled out 3 scenarios. Of the 3 scenarios, 2 scenarios are negative. And he says, I mean, coming from where he's coming, that there is a danger of a Rajapaksa resurgence. It's only one of his 3 scenarios that's optimistic. So that's Razin Saleh. And then, of course, you have those who are critical of the government from a center-left point of view, the JVP, the JO, and so on and so forth. And everybody is saying, look, there's a huge crisis looming. Look at the rupee. Look at the way it's plummeting. Look at the economic chaos in decision-making. Now, I think that, I mean, since I'm not an economist, but I've been a student of political economy, I think that what's happening here and what people are missing is the difference between Prime Minister Wickremesinghe's economic philosophy and that of all his predecessors, and in fact his superior, President Sirisena. Because from D.S. Senanayake onwards, there has been a bipartisan consensus, that is, that Sri Lanka is our island home. This is the only place on the planet that we have to call home, and you have to build the economy in a manner that strengthens the country. You need a strong economy. Every government, from Prime Minister D.S. Senanayake onward, tried this way and that to emphasize this, that or the other, in order to make the Sri Lankan economy more robust, because there was a sense that this is what we have, this is our home, we have to hand over, we have to think of the long term, we have to hand over a strong, successful Sri Lanka to the next generations. But Prime Minister Wickremesinghe, who's been PM before, has a different philosophy, whether you like it or not, whether you it's not a question of whether you support it or you don't support it. First you have to understand where it's coming from. And what the Prime Minister seems to see when he looks at Sri Lanka is not a homeland, a permanent homeland, an island homeland, which has to be protected and strengthened nationally, but as a piece of, as a commodity. It's almost like a CEO sitting in London or New York, looking at the world map and seeing Ceylon, not even Sri Lanka, but Ceylon, the island. Now, what do we do with this? How do we integrate this into our global chain? It's the way that the British colonials looked at Sri Lanka. I mean, how can we produce, what do we need to produce as part of our global economy? Let's try coffee. No, okay, that doesn't work. Let's try tea. There's no question of building up a robust national economy which has maximum autonomy. So, the Prime Minister's perspective is that of a CEO of another country looking at Ceylon, at a piece of real estate located strategically in the Indian Ocean. So it's a question of, okay, I've got a patch of land, how can I profit from this? Not personally, but how can we raise money? How can we sell this? How can we lease this? How can we loan this? And who's there? It's all a question of buying and selling Sri Lanka. Are the Indians willing to buy something? What are they willing to buy? Okay, and the Chinese, let them buy this. So you share out, you parcel out the island, which is not the way that leaders, of course he's not the leader is President Sirisena, but it's not the way that economic policy was formed, either by the UNP or the SLF. That's why none of the things that are being attempted now would have been attempted by anybody from D.S. Saranayake to Mahinda Rajapaksa, because they all worked within a certain broad philosophical framework, a certain attitude towards Sri Lanka. But the Prime Minister comes from another place, philosophically and in terms of economic doctrine.
But do we have time for trial and error?
No, because we have an economic crisis. The figures show it. The rupee itself shows it.
Is IMF going to be the only solution for this?
The IMF, as Greece shows, the IMF isn't the solution. The IMF is a problem. It's as much a problem, at least, as it is a solution. So now there's a reaction globally against the IMF, even in Europe. Why is that? But we are going down a road that Greece has gone before us and is in extreme pain. So next year, I mean, you have a time bomb ticking in terms of the economy. You have another time bomb ticking in terms of the constitution, and a third in terms of accountability, special courts and the Geneva Resolution. And all these time bombs are going to detonate next year. And they're not necessary to be detonated. I mean, you don't have to have a new constitution. You don't have to have special courts. And you needn't have signed up to the Geneva Resolution. And now you have an economic crisis. I think they should focus on the economic crisis. But that's what they should do.
Can Sri Lanka detonate that time bomb? What's really ahead of us? We'll have all the answers when we come back. Well, there was something that everyone was talking about this month, the Special Provisions Bill that started last month, but properly came out only in December, where there's much talk about it at provincial council level, even people were talking about it. What does it really entail, and how dangerous is it for us to get this all passed and enacted?
Well, what's dangerous about it, Stephanie, is that it's wildly illogical. And being illogical is a sign of being irrational, and being irrational is a very dangerous thing to be. Now, why do I say it's illogical? On the one hand, we are told that you have to strengthen the provincial councils, give more autonomy to the provincial councils. The provincial council should be more powerful. We should have a new constitution which empowers the provincial councils even more. And whether you agree with that or not, you have on the other hand the Special Provisions Bill or the Super Ministers Bill, which the provincial councils are reacting against because they're saying, hey, far from empowering us, you're trespassing on the powers that we already have. So that's wildly illogical, Stephanie. It's either one or the other. I mean, you do not say you're for more autonomy for provincial councils and try to grab whatever power they have and grab some of the economic decision-making power of the president himself. So it's crazy. I mean, you know, it doesn't make sense. And it also is creating problems between the UNP and the SLFP, which doesn't make sense either. So why do we need it? Now, there are two answers. Well, there are two and then there's the truth. That's the third answer. The two answers given, which are really lies, is that A, Basil Rajapaksa did it. B, we need it for rapid economic development. Well, if Basil Rajapaksa did it, well, go ahead and do it the same way. You don't need a new law. Do it the Basil Rajapaksa way, or the Sirisena Kure way, or the Felix Das Bandaranaike way. I mean, there are always ministers who are more assertive and more successful, or the Ranasinghe Premadasa way when he was Prime Minister under J.R. Jayawardena. Let the ministers compete, and if one guy does better than the others, well, so be it. You don't need a law which trespasses on the provincial councils that you say you're trying to empower and gets kicked in the teeth by those provincial councils, and which also tries to tread on the economic decision-making power of the executive president. So, these reasons is just not true. What's the truth? The truth is revealed in a new book by Professor Rajiv Vijayasinghe, the Prime Minister's cousin, among other things, and one of the original defectors who started the Yahapal and the ball rolling. He's written a book in which he says that when they were working on the manifesto in early 2015 for the January election, Dr. Jayampati Vikramaratne said that Mr. Sirisena, Minister Sirisena, should pledge that the day he is elected to office, he's going to hand power over to Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe. And Rajiv says, he said, hey, look, you can't call for a vote for one person and then he hands his power to another person who was not voted for. I mean, come on, what's this? And in any case, you're only proving Mahinda Rajapaksa's point that he's really running against Ranil Wickremesinghe and not President Sirisena, that the choice is not really Mahinda or Maithripala, but it's Mahinda versus Ranil. You're proving it because you're going to say that in 24 hours he has to hand over power to Ranil. I mean, what's this? And Rajiva says that Champika Ranawaka supported him. Now, I have no reason to doubt that. It's in a book, it's in a newspaper. If that's true, that's what's behind the Special Provisions Bill. That's what was behind the original draft of the 19th Amendment that was thrown out by the Supreme Court. That's what was behind the original resolution in Parliament, which was to have been brought on January 9th, 2016, but actually was delayed till March because it was modified by the SLFP. What is behind all that? What was behind it is what Jayampati tried to get done. It's not Jayampati, it's somebody else. And that is that, okay, you put President Sirisena forward, but you really want to grab the power from him. That's what the Special Provisions Bill is about. That is what the supposed new constitution is about. You don't need a new constitution to address the North-South issue. All you need is an amendment. You need to discuss the 13th Amendment. You need an all-parties consensus, as in the case of the 19th Amendment. You can do it. You don't need a referendum.
The last show for the year 2016. Hope you have a wonderful year next year, 2017, and hope you have a wonderful year too, and a peaceful 2017.
Happy New Year to you and all our viewers.
Well, let's wrap up this edition of Vantage Point. Next year we will come with a brand new edition, and stay tuned as we bring in more perspective to the table.